Alright, babes, this episode is building on the last episode on mind to muscle connection, and today we're taking that focus and directing it straight at your glute.
This is perfect because I think we should be honest in this moment where we can say that every woman in this community deserves a strong, peachy set of buttons that aren't just for show but also can work properly.
Yeah, so today we're unpacking the science, of course, the technique, and best exercises to help you grow your glutes that fire up, not just tagging along for the ride.
Okay, so before we get into the juicy glutes workout, let's quickly explain what hypertrophy is. So basically, it's just a sciencey word for muscle growth. When your muscle fibers increase in size and in response to the training that you are doing.
Yeah, and to trigger hypertrophy, you need 3 key ingredients, and that is mechanical tension, aka lifting with control, muscle damage like slow or heavy reps, and then metabolic stress, that spicy burn that makes your booty shake at the end on the last rep when you're like, oh my god. That's what we're looking for.
That's honestly the best feeling ever in your glutes. So anything legs actually that burn where you have to like fight with yourself. I love that so much in lower body.
Now, if you don't know,
now you know.
The glutes are notoriously lazy, and that's not a dig at BIG. Thanks to all the sitting that we do every day, sitting in our cars, sitting at your desk, sitting on the couch when you're coming home, this leads to something called gluteal amnesia, basically. Like brain of your glutes forgets how to work, wake up. Exactly. And basically your body just forgets how to activate your glutes.
And this is obviously exactly why mind to muscle connection is so important and where this becomes basically everything. Because the reality is that if you don't feel your glutes working, then they probably not work. So that burn, that feeling of pushing to failure and that I can't is actually important.
Yeah. One study even showed that glute activation nearly doubled during thrust when people were told focus solely on squeezing their glutes.
And it's actually crazy that something so simple like squeezing can make such a massive difference in like the hip thrust, for example, or the bridge even if you're starting. Just adding that squeeze is like telling your glutes, hello, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up, ma'am.
And the reason why the squeeze is so effective is because when you are squeezing, you are spending a longer time in a certain position. Like Donaé said in the previous episode, to slow it down. And this is why the squeeze becomes so effective, because when you are squeezing, you are spending a longer amount of time in the up part of the bridge. And thus allowing your brain and your body to like
connect.
And then it's like, okay, this is the feeling. So the squeezing is so important for the mind to muscle to actually connect.
Yeah, it's like if you put your hand on something that's hot, you put it for a second, then you can avoid a burn. But if you keep it there, you best believe you're gonna burn. So the time and attention is very, very important.
Yeah.
And here are a few top glute building exercises that are backed by science and EMG data.
So these aren't just the trendy exercises, because that's not how we go about planning our workouts. These exercises consistently show high glute activation when performed, proper form and mental focus, and tried and tested by us.
Preaching from the peachy choir.
Okay, so the first exercise would be the barbell hip thrust. This exercise is peak glute activation. And then the second exercise are your glute bridges. We all know and love them, except in this situation, it's when your feet are elevated. So that would be if it was on a gym ball or if it was on a step while you were lying down, your feet should be higher than the rest of your body basically. And what this does, it creates constant constant time under tension. So you're really going to get some metabolic stress in that instant. And then we have the Bulgarian split squat, Donaé's favorite exercise, like she mentioned last time. And this is great because this does two things. This provides your glutes with a stretch as well as strengthening at the same time. So extremely effective, and that's why it's so painful because you're literally doing two separate things at the same time.
Isn't our body just amazing to be able to do that? Honestly,
super. And then our RDLs is our glute and hamstring synergy. You know, if I'm doing glutes, I like to start with RDLs.
Same.
I always get some nice activation in my glutes from starting with RDLs, and then everything else is just building on that great foundation, you know?
Yeah, and it's also like a good warm up for your hamstrings also in the lengthening and shortening. Like it's a very good exercise to start with. I agree with you.
And then step ups. I love this exercise.
It
seems like such a boring exercise to do for the most part.
But it's not.
Exactly. But the trick is to lean forward when you are doing step ups. If you are just going to be stepping up, going up straight, it's going to be predominantly quad activation that you're going to get. And obviously, because we're training the glutes, we want to get some glute activation. So we want to target the glute medius and the glute maximus. And by doing that, you have to lean forward. So when you're doing your step ups, don't just go straight up. Think about leaning forward. The nice way to do it is by using a cable machine, or being close to a cable machine, or being close to something that you can hold on in the front when you are stepping up, because the leaning forward part is extremely important. And then final 3 exercises are your cable stack. We love them. And that's not just like kickback. That's like extend your leg. Yes. Extend your legs, hold, bring it back, nice and controlled. And don't just allow the cable to pull your leg back. Like, resist the tension on the way back as well. That way you can get some nice isolation magic going on in those glutes. And then our banded lateral walks. I will be doing these all the time. This is standard procedure, Miss Sophie.
It is.
And this is basically for pre-activation, like Donaé mentioned. And then we have our frog pump, which you usually do as a burnout finisher. And you added just 4 of these exercises into your weekly training routine, or you done 6 of these and 4 core exercises. You can do glutes and core on a day together. I promise you, if your glutes is something that you want to work on and something that you want to grow, if you do these consistently, you will 100% see growth in your glutes. Okay, wait, before we move on, Donaé, what's your favorite glute exercise of all time?
Was it so difficult? Okay. This is very difficult because glutes is my favorite thing to do in the world. But I've recently fallen in love with the hip thrust. There is nothing that gets burned like the hip thrust. Obviously, taking into consideration that I'm doing my banded walks and my RDLs. I'm trying to do everything, but if I was to choose one, it's definitely the hip thrust. But just on that, actually, also, if you do the hip thrust machine versus a barbell, the weight is like significantly different. Like, you can stack on a barbell, but once you go onto the machine, you're like, it's actually so crazy. I think the machine forces you to an extent in a certain position, whereas the barbell, you have a lot of more freedom actually than you do.
Hence it being called free weights.
She's funny. What's yours?
My favorite exercise is a banded walk, because I include banded walks into my actual workout. I don't really do them as a warm-up. I do that because I want to power out my glutes. But what I will do is I'll have a weight plate with me while I'm doing the banded walk. So I add a little bit of weight to it in that way. Not that the band's not adding enough weight.
Because the jelly does.
But I will lower my hips into, say, 65 degrees, and then with my dumbbell, I will trot along and I'll do my band walk. So for me, definitely the best activation that I get is when I'm doing my banded walks. And yes, of course, that deep stretch, that deep glute squeeze, nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. And especially the next day when you're walking and you feel your bums are like peachy from your workout the day before, and you're like, oop, 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 oop.
That is the best feeling.
And what's your training approach to your glutes in general? Like, how many times a week do you train them? Do you train them every day, or what?
No, definitely
what's the
not
vibe?
every day. I think that they would die and basically hit the point of fatigue and also empty reps. You can activate them and they can work, but then they will be sore and fatigued, and then you're not going to get much out of it. So I actually only train them once a week. I do quads and glutes and hamstrings. I do them separately. But if we look obviously at the quad day, a lot of the quad dominant exercises are also
you need your glutes.
Exactly, like a leg press, like the squats, like I squat and lunge on my quad days. So technically twice, but we are completely just ice one. And you?
I also only just train my glutes specifically once, and I generally do that on a Friday, because that's the day when it's like you've been pushing whole week, and it kind of feels like a little chilly session. So I'll do like glutes and core on a Friday. So definitely also only train my glutes once, because I'm not training where you train. I'm not training like that at the moment. I'm still very much training full body every day, except for Friday when I'm doing glutes. So
it's actually very interesting. Like we were discussing, that training your glutes requires so much mind to muscle connection. It's nice to have it at the end of the week, which is what both you and I prefer, because we can actually take our time to focus on the movements and load the weights. Yes, we die through most of the time, but it's such a slow, controlled session that actually better to do it later. Just
it just feels I don't know, it just makes sense.
Yes, like it wraps up the week, you know.
Okay, so let's map it out. A solid glute session usually follows this 3-part structure, usually, which is the pre-activation, that is getting the brain and muscle connection going, and then you have your compound lifts, which focuses on your execution, not just loading, and then we have your burnout sets, which are your glute finishes, and that is important for your metabolic stress, like we mentioned earlier.
And if at any point during any of these 3 phases, if your form slips and you feel that your glutes are not working and you're not feeling it in your glutes, again, take time to pause, slow it down, refocus, have a chat with yourself, and be like, this is what's happening. Visualize, be present.
So we gave you all of this information, and now we're going to tell you how to make it effective and to put it into plan or into work actually. So first things first, let's talk cues. The simple things that make a huge difference in connecting to your glutes. Actually, not just your glutes, every exercise that you perform, the way you are being cued by either your trainer or the way you are cueing yourself matters.
And there's quite a few things that you could use. For example, cracking a nut between your cheeks, or if you imagine that you're holding a note between your cheeks. Sorry for the visuals. I know that our brain is gonna now bring us these pictures. I do apologize, but they help. This is the point of it. Squeezing at the top and like you are holding a coin. Drag your heels to the ground. Imagine that you're pushing into the ground and the ground is pushing back, and that's what's happening. Like force meets force. So just like little things like this to help you visualize.
If you're struggling, get your squat form. Let me just give you a little trick. So, I'll tell you a little story and then you can get a trick bonus out of it. So I had a client that was struggling to do her squat, and for a couple of seconds I was just standing there and watching her body move, and I tried all of the words that I usually use to get someone to understand what I needed from them, but it just wasn't clicking. And then I said to her, pretend you are peeing in the bush and you don't want your shoes to get wet. And she went down into a squat. It was the most beautiful squat I've seen. So that is how important cueing is.
Yeah.
Because firstly, we all don't understand things the same because we don't have the same background, we don't have the same cultures, etc. But what we do universally understand as women is that when we're going to make a little pinkel, like we say in German, in the bush, we don't want our shoes to get wet.
Yeah.
And that's basically the form for squat. Feet apart, going down, coming back up. So
that's a good one to remember the next time I visualize the bush. Oh my gosh.
Okay. And remember, it's not about finishing the rep, it's about owning the rep. Every single rep, own it, make it yours, make it your bitch.
So next time you're training, ask yourself, are my glutes actually doing the work? And if not, go back, adjust, and reconnect, refocus.
And if you want help getting started, grab our free glute activation guide in the comments down below. We will link it in the description for you. All you need to do is sign up to the email list and then you'll receive your free Giggles and Glutes glute workout.
Let's get you peachy. Thank you for joining us in this episode. We hope that you were able to take something away from this episode, something valuable, that Zoe and I left you with something valuable. We hope to see you next time. Same place.
Subscribe!
See you next time. Bye.